Hey y'all, if you're just tuning in, thank you for connecting with Corey Money Mindset every day. We are helping individuals get financially free and get to that place of just having financial freedom. All right, so if you're just tuning in, I have a chapter 1 that kind of talks about 10 things you need to know before bankruptcy. Now we're going to talk about the bankruptcy process and get into the meat of it. So stay tuned. This will be a fun video. We're going to get into it, the nitty gritty, all the tea about bankruptcy. All right, Corey, Money Mindset. Let's get it. All right, so what happened, Corey? What led you down this road to have to file for bankruptcy? All right, so I was in college, and I think that the whole span of between all of this happening and me filing for bankruptcy probably was like 2 to 3 years of kind of a whirlwind per se. But my story started when I was in college. I believe it was my junior year in college, and business. Always have been business savvy, or at least as much as I thought I did. I wanted to be in business, be in marketing. That was what my degree was. So again, still wet behind the ears, but just trying to soak in and learn all of this thing to be successful. A family member approached me, and again, I don't want to put blame on anyone because even though I was young, I still was an adult. And some people may say, you should have known better, they should have known better, they were older, you may have been taken advantage of. I'm clearing the air to not be trying to throw anyone under the bus, because even being young, I'm accountable for my actions. So a family member approached me, and that family member was doing well. In business and things, and at least is what I thought, and talked to me about an opportunity of connecting with them to move forward with their business venture, because they needed a partner. They had started a catering company and business, and was thinking about whether they would go the restaurant route or just doing kind of catering for things. And I was there through the process, close family member. So I saw the potential. It's like, okay, it's on and popping. So it was like, okay, there would be the CEO and I'd be the CFO, the chief financial officer. I didn't really know what that really, I knew what it meant, but again, it was new, starting off business. I'm like, okay, it just sounds good with the title and stuff. Hey, I'm 20 something and I got the title. So I'm helping, but I'm really hands off. But the way that I was helping was financially. Through credit, because I did have good credit at the time. Again, as I say, I was business savvy, knew a little bit. When I was in college, I learned from my dad just a little bit of the game. So by the time I was a sophomore in college, I was able to purchase my own car from a dealership without any help or support from my parents. That's just how good my credit was. And I learned early on with my sister about messing up your credit when I was in high school. And my sister got a credit card, and she put both of our names on it. And she ran up more money than I did, but we both were attached to it. So that ended up getting discharged. But I had worked, doing my little due diligence to make sure that I kept myself on track with my credit. So I was good at that time in college, doing little things to make sure I was straight. I was able to purchase my own car by the time I was a sophomore. So moving forward to my junior year, and this opportunity presents itself, I'm like, cool, it is on and popping. So, man, don't even remember what even happened first. But again, the way it happened was we were with the business. We had got some catering contracts of a school district, like a school, and it was like a charter school. So the money, from what I understood, was there. And it was like, okay, we're just getting a lot of equipment and things to help prep and prepare ourselves so that we're good moving forward with these contracts. Again, I definitely, my head was, hindsight 2020, looking back at it, I was over water for sure, underwater for sure. But in a nutshell, these are some of the things that we purchased, or that I helped purchase with my credit. And this is why it's so important now moving forward. If you're thinking about business, don't overextend yourself. And sometimes starting off, you have to use your own personal credit, but as soon as you can switch and start using business credit, that is what you want to do. I'll talk about some other videos and we'll get into that more. So follow me along this journey so I can hit you to some game. Okay, but using personal credit. So at that time, back in the early 2000s, before the housing bubble burst and all this craziness happened, this is, back in the early 2000s, 2000, what, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, banks and things were really giving money. You didn't even have to really prove a whole bunch. Things have changed so much in this day and age because of all the craziness that happened back then with the banks and the housing bubble bursting and all that good things. But banks, as long as you had good credit, you could pretty much guesstimate even at times what you were going to make, and banks just threw money out at you. My credit was being used and tied to the business income since I was on the business. And so it looked like we were balling out of control. Looked at me being young and being in college and the business was doing good, that we could technically afford these things. And at that time, again, and even to this day, you got to be careful when starting business because they can throw a lot of money at you. Credit cards, lines of credit, all this stuff. So I had taken out lines of credit for the business, lines of credit, Home Depot for the business and catering credit. That ended up being like, already that was like probably $100,000 altogether. I know, sounds crazy. A home, purchased a home for that family member. I was in a whole different city, but the business was located about an hour away from where I was at. So most of it was done there. Again, my role was pretty much behind the scenes with my credit. Again, okay, I know, but the business was an hour away. So a lot of stuff was getting taken care of. The lines of credit, Home Depot, purchased a home, helped the family member purchase a home, but it wasn't a modest home. It was a home where we were that family member was looking to live in, but then also have a business in it and through it. So the home was pretty expensive. It was like a $300,000+ home that the catering business helped operate outside of renovations and such. And then we also purchased cars. So we went to the dealership and we got 2 brand new Mercedes Benzes. So again, hindsight is 2020 is like crazy when I think of all of it. But again, I just thought everything was good. Money was flowing in. It would be no issue. And being that young, didn't really think of a full exit strategy. Hence, obviously filing for bankruptcy. So that is in a nutshell of what happened, of how I racked up over $500,000 of debt on my credit. And when I tell you the contracts dried up and the money wasn't flowing, it was so tough. That relationship with that family member just ended up being so tough to navigate that. Because when your family at the end of the day, so you love your family, and families have fallen out for lesser things than that. But again, it was a difficult situation to go through that piece with the family piece. Again, being in college, trying to finish my studies and having that stress on me. And when the money wasn't flowing and the creditors started calling, man, when you're talking about depression, the weight of the world, anxiety, you name it, kind of being all there. That is what spiraled out of control for about 2 years, going into my junior and senior year, finishing up high school, college, going into my adulthood, transitioning through, grad school even. So, I forgot about that. So I had 2 years of grad school. So I'm still moving forward with life as all this was happening. I think by the time I got to, I think I'd say take a step back because again, my memory's a tiny bit fuzzy, but this happened while I was still in undergrad. Things started to go bad by the time I hit grad school because I was there for 2 years. So that's where it was about almost 3 years kind of total. Things spiraling out of control until it was like, okay, there's nothing else I can do. So to wrap up the bankruptcy story, as all that was still going on, for me, life was still continuing. As I said, I was moving forward with school, undergraduate completed, graduate school, finishing up, and then moving forward with my own life. And at that time, I was in the process of getting married and then moving to a whole different state because I was actually starting my career. But again, the crazy thing in that was that this is when it really was like, okay, there's no saving the business. Business is done, dried up. Now the creditors are calling me, they want their money. I have no other things to do but to possibly file for bankruptcy. So I went to the credit counseling at first just to see where my finances stood, and then looked to see what would be a good fit for me in terms of finding an attorney to file for bankruptcy. So I remember, just like it was yesterday, finding that number and going for my first consultation and hitting that elevator button and going up to the 3rd floor and walking in, and it's just like a large office, and he got desk papers and things everywhere. So he just wanted to hear my story, and I told him what all transpired. And even though I again tried to make myself look good and was like, I didn't know all this was happening, like, is there a way that we can put it on that family member and say I was taken advantage of? I was just trying to think of anything. But at the end of the day, as I said, I own up to it. It was the mistakes that I made that I should have been more conscious of, even being young. And even for some of my family members that were in my ear telling me, like, be careful, be cautious, again, hindsight is 2020. Long story short is that it happened. So when I'm in that attorney's chair, trying to get counsel about what to do, the first thing he hit me with that I remember is that the bankruptcy was going to cost. I wasn't sure at that time how expensive it was going to be. And then hitting me with those numbers like $1,500, and you got a filing fee and all these steps and processes and everything. So that's when I knew I had to move forward and scrounge up, save up as much money as I could with my new job and pay for the bankruptcy. The blessing and even all of that was that my new job that I transitioned to was me being a hall director. So I didn't have to pay for the cost of living, which helped a lot to be able to scrounge up that money to pay for bankruptcy. But man, I was scared to death, like transitioning, just getting married and having a new job. And we kept our wedding very small, private. My wife already knew all the stuff I was getting into. So she knew I was gonna potentially end up filing for bankruptcy, and she stuck it in there with me. We had a low-key wedding, didn't spend and waste a whole bunch of money, because life still happens. Life's still going on as this is all going on. And I was so scared I wasn't gonna actually get the job, because they always do a credit check, background check, whatnot. I thought it was gonna immediately pop up how bad my financial situation was, because I've heard about that for certain jobs. But prayerfully, everything went through. I got the job, we transitioned to our new state, and that's actually when I was going to go ahead and file for bankruptcy. So I lived in Ohio, transitioned to actually Nebraska, and that's where I actually filed for bankruptcy after I met with my attorney, got those initial steps and the ball rolling. And so in a nutshell, that's my story of how I got all the debt, moved forward with finding an attorney, and starting the process of filing for bankruptcy. All right, so let me get into some of my paperwork just to show y'all for real. And when you go to it, as I said, when you go to your court date, your bankruptcy doesn't have to be accepted. So that's why it's so important you connect with a good attorney to make sure they file everything correctly. So when you go into that court date, and you stand in front of the judge for, again, it's really short, like 10 or 15 minutes. It's pretty much agreeing to the petition that's being filed, and that, everything is truthful. They say a representative is supposed to be there to kind of look over everything. I think somebody else was in the courtroom. They had to have been. They represented the creditor side or whatnot, and then they pretty much sign off on it, and then bam, that's it. You walk out. I walked out, and my attorney was like, it's all done. So whatever, $1,500+ later, the couple months that it took for all that to go through, one court date, and it was done. But on my paperwork, it says my name as the debtor, Chapter 7, my case number, filed in the United States Bankruptcy Court. So show y'all all my business. I'm gonna show y'all all my business, But you can see that is the paperwork, and then at the bottom it shows. This is just one of the pieces. Like I said, this is the property alone that was outstanding. So $408,000. So like I said, it goes through your entire life. This one was just about the mortgage. It had, this is the first part of the application, and it had the bulk, I think, of the home on there, because since that was such a big one, it looked like the bank was trying to come after me alone. So they had that one kind of like its own paperwork, which is big. You get all these documentations about the debts that won't be discharged, like some of that paperwork as I mentioned before in my video number 1 of like student loans, domestic support obligations, it says on here. So student loans, debts from fines, so different things won't necessarily be discharged. And that's something that you may not think of. You're like, oh, I'm gonna go bankruptcy, I'm gonna start fresh. But at the end of the day, the government's gonna want their money. And a lot of those things, they can make your payment so low, you cannot not pay it. So that's why it's not discharged. But as I said, there's certain circumstances it can be. Okay, so in this paperwork, it says what is the number of debtors. It says 1. Assets that I have currently is 0 to 50,000, and my estimated liabilities 500,000 to 1 million. That's the box that it checks. So these are some of the boxes. You can see that. Those ones at the bottom. Like I said, that's where it says right there. This one right there. Hopefully that comes in clear, but yeah, right there, that box says 500,000 to 1 million. So just little boxes that they check where my assets and stuff are at and what I have outstanding. All right, so what I end up paying, oh man, like stuff I don't even remember on here. My papers are so old, but got all my business on here, but this is what it says my assets were at the time. It's like 2,400, and if you look at my liabilities, it's like, again, crazy, over 500,000. And that also, it includes like, I think it included everything that I ever had, student loans, everything was on there. But again, the bulk of the business stuff, that it was like the 500,000, you know, when it's all said and done. So, you know, you get all of this crazy paperwork. Again, this is all what the lawyer files for the Chapter 7. I want to show you see what I end up paying. Again, they have everything: your personal property, property claims that's exempt, all of your creditors that are on here. It'll go through your entire life. So just be prepared that that's what's going to end up happening. They'll find stuff that you may even forgot about. I mean, student loans, even scholarships that I got that were. They just went through everything to make sure. But you get everything about the chapter bankruptcy. They talk about all the details of everything here. Let's see. Okay, this is my meeting at the. I won't pull that out. That was my meeting at the actual court. So yeah, so like for example, these are the charges. The services from the credit counseling agencies. Chapter 7 bankruptcy was like a $245 filing fee, $39 administrative fee, $15 trustee fee. It was $299 altogether. A Chapter 13 was $274 if I would have filed that. And then actually paying for, that was just the fee to the court. But then it does show that my payment to my lawyer was $1,500. I just saw that, but yeah. So yeah, so that's a little bit of everything. And again, you get all the paperwork, all the explanations of the legal advice. I mean, you'll get everything under the sun when you file, and you will actually get your court date and everything. And this was the information for my court date and telling me where I would be at the building. And it says arrive 15 minutes beforehand. And yeah, it just says mark your calendar, make sure that I'm there to be there. And they said that it was $150 to reschedule if I did not pay attention and be there. Court date comes, man, I go in there, do my thing, not in there too long, come out. And I just remember being, it was cold. I remember it being a colder day, a brisk day, and I just remember just like this sigh of relief, of fresh air, just of like the weight of the world is off of me. One piece of the story I failed to mention, man, let me tell you guys, because a lot of this, again, it was so stressful, but also humbling when it was all said and done. That Mercedes I mentioned that I got, the lawyer told me, because I was asking him about it, like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, are they gonna repossess it and all this stuff? And he was pretty much like, yeah, they're going to end up repossessing it. So you probably got an option to turn it in or just keep on, hold it until they repossess it. So I didn't want to be, caught at my job and then a tow truck was there, grabbing my car and taking it away. So I could have kept on to it probably longer than what I did, but man, I just sucked it up. It was so humiliating though. I remember asking a friend, it was a coworker I had just met, because I remember I moved to a new state, to drive me out to dealership, the Mercedes-Benz dealership, and it was a cold day. I believe it was a winter day, so like it was raining or sleeting or something. And I remember driving out there like, man, like this brand new Mercedes is about to get turned in, and I'm just surrendering it because I know I'm about to file for bankruptcy and I can't afford the car note anymore. Like I'm struggling to pay this car note. I think it was like 500 plus at the time. So driving, they were, how you do service at different car spots, and they had a canopy where they hit the garage doors and let you in so you don't have to get wet or you don't have to be in the elements. So they hit that, and I just remember kind of going in there, giving my key, and they were still so pleasant, but in my back of my mind, like, they know that at least the main guy I spoke to know I'm turning it in because I can't afford it anymore. And it just was like, here you go. And hopping in my friend's car and heading back to work. So, man, crazy. But again, all said and done, court date is all done and finished. Transitioning into starting my new life after bankruptcy. So stay tuned. I have a part 3. I want you to check that out, of what you need to do after bankruptcy has been filed to get back onto the road to financial freedom. That financial freedom mindset every day. So stay tuned to the next video. Remember to leave a comment, like, subscribe, share. Let's get this information out so that folks know what they're getting themselves into before, during, and after bankruptcy occurs. Till next time, Corey signing out. Peace and blessings.